has become absolutely vital. There's been a ton of review manipulation accusations against sellers. They observe your prices and they monitor your competitors to help you increase your sales on Amazon. Today we're going to be talking about Amazon pay-per-click and how campaigns can help you sell more inventory and move your inventory faster while also increasing your organic rankings. Franz, thank you very much for being here today. This is the first webinar that Amazon Seller's Lawyer is hosting, and I'm really excited to have you on as our first guest. If viewers want to contact you and get more information, you'll be able to get that towards the end. Also, we're going to have a question and answer. If you can submit your questions, it would make things great. And also, right at the outset, please forgive me if my technology is not the best. This is the first webinar that Amazon Seller's Lawyer is hosting. Franz, if you're ready, take over and jump on in, and I hope I'll be able to hear you.
All right. Thank you, CJ, for this introduction. So I hope that the voice is working now. Could you all hear me?
I can hear you. It's terrific.
All right. So it seems that now it's better now. So thanks, CJ, for those kind words. Thanks for this introduction. The goal of this webinar today is to give an overview of how to structure your sponsored product campaigns, right? So sponsored products has been a very important topic for a lot of users and for a lot of Amazon sellers, but also a lot of sellers still struggle to create their campaigns. And CJ, it seems there's a lot of echo. Maybe you can just turn out your voice. Oh wait, let me turn out the voice exactly. So now it should be fine. So as I said, a lot of sellers still struggle to set up their sponsored products campaigns, and I think there's a lot of knowledge out there, a lot of things available on the marketplace, but there is a tendency to make entire PPC stuff more complicated than it actually is. And so what I want to talk today about is how to set up your campaigns in a way that's actually easy and manageable, but yet at the same time still, okay to, that still provides you all the benefits of sponsored products. So I've planned half an hour, maybe a few minutes more, but then we should be done, and then we'll just go into the questions. If you have any questions, then feel free to put them in the chat, and then we'll look at them. From time to time. Now, before you get started, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but before you get started with sponsored products, you really should make sure that your listing is actually optimized. Okay, that you've covered all the basics, and I don't want to go into this. If you don't know how to optimize your listings, I think there's plenty of content available online, so you can just check it out, maybe on our blog, but also on many other places, on how to actually optimize your listings and your bullet points and your titles and so on. But really make sure that your listing is fully optimized before you go into PPC, because everything else is just gonna make you lose a lot of money and won't give you the return required to be successful with sponsored products. Cool. Now, before we get started with the campaigns and the campaign structure, I want to make it clear that it's really important that you guys set the right goal when you start your sponsored products campaigns, right? Essentially, there are two types of goals that we see on sponsored products. So one goal is to maximize profits, and the other one is to maximize sales, right? So one time you just want to make as much money as possible for you. I mean, that's essentially the role of any business, right? But there are some situations where you'd rather maximize the units you sell, right? So this is specifically if you want to get rid of inventory, or if you want to boost your organic rankings, then maximizing for sales is actually more important than maximizing for profits. And the reason it is important to set your goals at the beginning is that depending on the goals that you have, you will need to calculate different ACOS, different metrics to determine whether you're actually profitable or not, right? So if you maximize for profits, you will need to calculate the target ACOS that you want to achieve, whereas if you maximize for sales, you will need to calculate the break-even ACOS. where you actually don't lose any money anymore, but still generate a lot of sales, right? So the typical question that I hear a lot from sellers is, what's actually a good ACOS, right? So an advertising cost of sales, what's a good ACOS? And most people actually hope that, you know, I can just provide a number. So this is very hard and it really depends on product and also on the goal, right? So like I said, there are two different ACOS. One is the break-even ACOS, and the other one is the target ACOS or ACOS. And depending on the product, this could be as low as maybe 5%, or it could go up as high as maybe 30%, or sometimes maybe even more. I think that if you have an ACOS of 50 or more, I think it's highly unlikely that you will actually still generate a profit. I think there are only very few products that have such high margins that with an ACOS of 50 or more, you still generate a profit. So I think in general, as a rule of thumb, you know, whenever you hit more than 50% in ACOS, you should probably reconsider. Now, how do we calculate the target ACOS and the break-even ACOS? Well, that's actually not too complicated. I know it looks a bit complicated here here at the beginning if we look at this presentation here, but it's actually not as hard. So the first step will be that you actually know your exact profit margin. And this is really important. This is what you can see here. So typically, if you sell a product, and let's say this is the sales price, right, the entire 100%, then you typically pay 25% in Amazon fees, right? So 15% for Amazon, and then another 10% on average for FBA fees. That means 25% of your sales price is actually going into Amazon fees. Then here in this example, we just assume that 43% of your product sales price is going into production and logistics, right? So cost of goods, and then the cost it takes to ship it to the Amazon warehouse. And then eventually we have a 10% overhead. So that's just the you know, if you have employees or if you need to pay rent or so, then in this case we just assume that this is another 10% of the product. So that if you deduct all of those costs here, it leaves you with a 22% profit margin, right? This is the money that you have left to spend on advertising, okay? Be reminded, this is actually the profit before your ad spend, okay? So you have 22% in profit, deducting all those costs here, but not deducting the ad spend, right? So that means that you can spend an actual 22% of your sales price on ads and still be break even, right? And this is why this is actually called the break even ACOS. That means that if you spend as much as your profit margin on ads, you will obviously not lose any money, right? If you start spending more than 22% on ads, then obviously you will incur a loss because you spend more than you actually have in profit. So the break-even ACOS is actually a very important metric that all of you should know, because this is really the red line where if you cross that line, you actually start losing money on sponsored products. With every sale you make, you start losing money, right? So it's really important that your actual ACOS of a campaign is actually lower than the break-even ACOS, right? Now, if you don't just want to break even, but if you actually want to make a profit, the only thing that you need to do is you need to deduct the target profit margin that you want to achieve after ad spend, right? So if you have 22% before you spend on ads, and if your target margin is 10%, that means that you have 22 minus 10 equals 12%. So this is actually the margin that you can invest on ads. This is the margin that's left, right? So that means that your target ACOS is 12% and your break-even ACOS is 22%. That means that if your actual ACOS is lower than 22%, you're actually profitable, and if it's lower than 12%, you generate at least your target margin. Okay. So I think this is really important to know those two numbers before you even get started with the campaigns. But let's just continue, and well, let me just see if there are any questions. Nope. doesn't seem there are any questions. So I'm just gonna hop back into the full screen mode so that you guys can get a better picture. So once you have calculated your target ACOS and your break-even ACOS, the next question then is, how do you set up your sponsored products campaigns, right? What's actually the perfect structure to set up your campaigns? And I think the first really important thing to understand is there is no perfect structure, okay? There are many different ways how you can structure your campaigns, and it's always a trade-off between scalability and low management effort on one side, and then kind of the perfection but very high maintenance campaign structures on the other side, right? So let's assume that you just run auto campaigns, right? You want to have as little effort as possible. You don't want to spend any time at all on sponsored products. Then the easiest way is to just run an auto campaign, okay? Because if you run an auto campaign, Amazon will take care of everything for you. You just set a budget, you select a product, and then Amazon will take care of everything for you, right? So you don't have to think about anything. You just start the campaigns, and Amazon will take care of the rest, right? Now, obviously, that is very scalable, and that requires very little management effort, right? It is scalable because you can do it for one product, but you can easily scale it up to 100 or 1,000 products because it's essentially just setting up the campaigns once and then you're done, right? Now, the disadvantage is obviously that you cannot place individual bids, and you cannot also select the keywords that you're bidding on, right? So you have some drawbacks here. I mean, it's very easy to set up and it's very easy to maintain, but you're missing out on some great opportunities to actually get more and more profit out of your campaigns. On the other side, if you think of the perfect structure, then the perfect way to set up your campaigns would be to have one campaign with only exact keywords, but that contains all keywords required or that match this product, right? But that would essentially mean that you have thousands of keywords in one campaign for each product. And if you have 10 or 100 products, that would mean you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of keywords that you will need to manage. So obviously, this will require a lot of your time and will actually be very hard to scale beyond one or two products. Because it's just so complex. It's just so complex to handle. Okay, so the campaign structure that I'm going to present today is located somewhere here, right? So it's definitely not as detailed as it could be, but on the other side, it is very easy to handle, right? So I think it's what happens today is if you look at a lot of content that is out there on how to structure campaigns, most campaigns will probably be somewhere here, right? Most will tell you that you should set up your campaigns in a quite complex manner, and then you should, there's a long explanation of how to manage those campaigns. Whereas I think that, if you have a rather simple structure, but that really, gets 80% of the value out of it, but on the other side, you only have 20% of the effort, I think this is a very compelling structure. And I think that, you should really have a look at this. And this is, that's what we had in mind when we started setting up this structure. How can we have a structure that is at the same time simple, but that is at the same time also combine all the advantages of the different management campaigns there are, right? So this is what we're gonna talk about today. Essentially, to give you an overview, this is how the campaign works, right? So the idea is that for each ASIN, right? So you will need to do this for each ASIN. For each ASIN, you have one auto campaign that consists of one ad group, obviously, and you have one manual campaign that has both one ad group in broad and one ad group in exact, right? So one ad group with only broad keywords and
Hey, Franz, can I interrupt you for a second?
So this is a setup essentially, right? So this is what we're going to talk about today. So this is the upper part, how to set up your campaigns. And once the campaigns are set up, and the next step, what you will need to do on an ongoing basis is you will actually need to move the search terms from your auto campaign into your broad campaign, and then from the broad ad group into the exact ad group, right? So this is one thing that you need to do. And the second thing you need to do is you actually need to add search terms that are not relevant to your product from your auto and your broad campaign to negative. Okay, this is the ongoing optimization. I don't think that we will have the time today to look at this, ongoing optimization. Today we will only talk about the setup of this campaign. Okay, cool. So let's get started then. Let's start by setting up the campaigns. So we will start by actually setting up the manual campaign with those two ad groups here. So the ad group of exact and the ad group of broad. Before we go into this, I just want to make sure that everyone here has a good understanding of what the different match types actually mean. So as you know, on Amazon, there are 3 different match types, right? So there's a match type broad, phrase, and exact. Okay, and so the match type essentially determines for which keywords Amazon will show your ad. Okay, so let's assume that you're bidding on this keyword doghouse. Okay, if
can I interrupt you 1 second?
Doghouse and you use the match type exact, Amazon will show your ad only for the 2 keywords doghouse and doghouses, right? So even if it's a plural, Amazon will still show the ad. But that's it, okay? Only if the user, the customer is searching exactly the same keyword that you're bidding on. So you're bidding on this keyword doghouse, and only if the user is actually searching exactly for doghouse, only then Amazon will actually display your ad, okay? And this is why it's called exact, because the customer needs to search exactly what you're bidding on, right? Now, the phrase on the other side means that Amazon will show your ad whenever the user is searching for what you bid on, but it could be that the user also search for more keywords, right? So the ad will be displayed for doghouse and doghouses, obviously, but it will also be displayed for igloo doghouse, or doghouses for small dogs, doghouse outdoor, doghouse door, and extra large doghouse, right? Because the only thing that's required here for your ad to show up is that doghouse is actually in the same order as you're bidding on. Okay, so as you can see here, doghouse is always, it's always together. It always says doghouse, doghouses, doghouses, doghouse, and doghouse, right? So essentially what happens is either before or after the doghouse, if the customer is searching for more than just the doghouse, it will still display the ad, okay? Now, if you go then a bit further, which is broad, which is the widest net essentially that you can cast, right? Then Amazon will not just show your ad when the customer is searching for doghouse, but even if the customer is searching in a different order, or if there are some words in between, then your ad will still be displayed, right? So as you can see here, dog and house is separated by extra large, right? Dog, extra large, house, okay? That means that the doghouse here is not combined as a phrase. There's extra large, so there are words in between, but Amazon will still show the ad because it is here set to broad, okay? And same goes for here. It says house for dogs, right? And then dog, outdoor, house. So as you can see, there are always words in between, and Amazon still displays the ads, right? So I think this is really important to understand, that the further you go from exact to broad, the more keywords you will actually rank for, or the more keywords your ad would actually be displayed for, right? Now the question is, what are the pros and what are the cons of those different match types, okay? And essentially it's very easy. So if you look at those, the advantage is that, and it could be an advantage and at the same time a disadvantage, right? So the advantage of broad versus exact is that your ad will appear for more keywords, but as it does appear for more keywords, it will also rank for more keywords that are not relevant, right? So if you bid on doghouse exact, then you know that both those keywords are really relevant to your product, right? So if you're selling a doghouse. If you go to phrase, you will see that igloo doghouse and doghouses for small dogs and doghouse outdoor, those are all relevant search terms as well. However, if you look at doghouse outdoor and extra large doghouse, those are not relevant to our product anymore, right? So those two in red, those are actually irrelevant search terms. So we have a bit of waste here if we go to phrase. So we have in exact we only have 2 good keywords, whereas in phrase we have 5 good keywords, but we also have 2 not so good keywords, right? 2 bad keywords that we actually don't want to bid on. Okay, Franz? And then if we go to broad, we will actually see then we have another keyword that is bad, but then at the same time we also get 2 more keywords that are actually good, right? So those 3 down here, those are the new ones that you're not bidding on in phrase, whereas those 5 here are the ones that you're not bidding on in exact, right? So the advantage of going wide is actually that you find more keywords and you're bidding on more keywords, but obviously if you cast a very wide net, then per se you also have you also catch some things that you actually don't want to catch, right? So that's essentially the idea of exact, right? So it really depends, if you know exactly which keywords you want to bid on, then exact is the best you can do, because then you have no waste at all. If you're not sure which keywords you want to bid on, then broad is probably the better way to go.
Franz, okay? Can you hear me?
So this is why, and if we look at the campaign structure, this is why we recommend to use both an exact ad group and a broad ad group, right? Because both have their pros and their cons, right? Exact means you don't have any waste, but you also don't find any new keywords. Broad means you do have a little bit of waste, but on the other side, you also find new keywords. And so the idea is by combining those 2, or by having those 2 ad groups, you actually combine the best of both, and you use the broad ad group to find new keywords, and use the exact ad group to actually bid on those keywords and be profitable. Okay, does that make sense? Let me just go back. I always have to get out of the full screen. Okay, so to see the questions, so I can see. Oh, there are many. There are many questions coming here. So Jan was asking how many ad groups in a campaign are recommended. This is essentially what I recommend, right? So you have 1 broad and 1 exact in your manual, and you have one ad group in the auto campaign. Now, in case of parent-child variation, that's actually a very common question. So what happens if you have a lot of child ASINs, right? So specifically in apparel and so on. My recommendation, and again, you can do this like you prefer. If you want to do it in a perfect way, then you should actually set up your child ASINs into different campaigns, right? Now, for the sake of simplicity, I usually recommend to put all the same child ASIN into the same campaign, right? Especially if the difference between those child ASINs isn't too big. Now, specifically in apparel, if it's just a question of sizes, you can put all those child ASIN into the same campaign, right? Now, if you have variations that are very different and that people are actually using different keywords to search for, then I suggest that you actually split it up. But it's again, like I said, it's always a question of, it's always a trade-off of simplicity versus perfection, pretty much. That's what it is. Okay, so let's see some other question. John says, what is your advice with respect to products with many similar variations? How does one go about leveraging this as an opportunity? Well, essentially, that's what I just said. How many keyword is optimal for phrase type for one ASIN? Is 500 to 600 too many? Yes, so we'll come to this in a second, but 500 to 600 in my mind is way too much. How would you set up your campaign if you got 2 similar products that isn't parent-child? That's a good question. So if at the end of the day, it all comes down to whether people are using the same keywords to actually bid to actually find the same products. If this is the case, you should consider putting it together into one campaign in the beginning, and then if you see that the performance of those two products is very different, then you could split it up later, right? So you start with both similar products in the same campaign. You see if there are differences in what keywords one product is performing better than the other, and then if you see that one is performing better than the other, you can just split them up, and then you put the keywords into separate campaigns, right? Okay, I see there are a lot of questions coming. Let me just I think that we will answer some questions anyways during the presentation. So let me just go back very quickly into the presentation, and then I'll finish my part, and then we can go to your questions that are remaining. So this is the exact campaign, right? Now, how do we set up the exact campaign? Essentially, it's not too difficult. So the goal of this campaign obviously is to generate profits. Like I said at the beginning, the exact campaign is where we want to make our money. The budget, I typically recommend $10 or euros, depending on where you are. Essentially, the budget shouldn't be too much of your concern, right? The budget is, I always say, the budget is just an airbag. So if everything goes wrong, you just want to make sure not to spend an enormous amount of money. But essentially, the logic is as follows. If you do have a profitable campaign, you don't want to set a budget limit, right? Why would you limit a profitable campaign, right? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. If you're profitable, then you could just spend $10, $20, $50, or $100 if you get $1,000 in return for it, right? So if you're profitable, then you shouldn't set any budget limit as long as you're profitable. And if you're not profitable, then you should work on your profitability and make it profitable. And the budget again is just an airbag. Okay. Now, in terms of naming, I suggest that you both add manual to your campaign name and exact. So typically, what I suggest is you take the product name and then you add manual and exact, right? And that's essentially then you have a good name and you will always recognize this. If you don't do this, then you'll always have difficulties in finding the campaigns that you use, right? And then in terms of products, I suggest you use one ASIN per campaign. As I said, the default bid, because when you set up a campaign, they will actually ask you for the default bid. So I'll show you on the next slide how to calculate it. And so for the keywords that you enter into the exact campaign, I suggest that you start with the top 20 to 50 keywords, right? So I don't think it's a good idea to start with hundreds or thousands of keywords in your exact campaign, because this will just pollute your campaign and make it difficult later on to then really identify the keywords that make sense to you, right? So typically what we see is there are 20 to 50 keywords that are really driving 80 to 90% of your traffic. Right, and those are the ones that you want to have in your exact campaign. Okay, you don't want to have all of the keywords in your campaign. You want to be able to keep a good overview. Now, what we recommend to use in order to find those 20 to 50 keywords is Sonar. So Sonar is a keyword research tool. It's actually it's a tool of us. But since it's entirely free, I feel very comfortable to share it here with you today. So it's a free keyword research tool that has 80 million keywords. All of those keywords are real Amazon search queries. We offer a search volume, and there's also the possibility to do a reverse ASIN lookup. Right. So let me just show you very quickly how this works. So I'm going to switch here to the desktop view. This is Sonar. So just enter sonar-tool.com, and then you'll get here to Sonar. And then it's very easy. So you just enter the keyword that you wanna research. So doghouse for this example, right? And then you hit enter, and you will get a list of all the keywords that are relevant to this keyword, right? So you have doghouse, igloo doghouse, dog gates for the house, and so on, right? So you have a long list of keywords. And then you can also download this list here and then you will get this in Excel, right? So this is a very easy way to find those keywords, specifically because we offer search volume, right? So as you can see here, there are 2 bars here. That means that 5 is the maximum, 1 is the minimum. So 2 bars is not too much, but essentially it shows you that doghouse is searched more often than larger indoor doghouse, for instance, right? So that's a very easy way to come up with a list of the most important keywords, excuse me. Now, if you, what you can also do is you can just start with a product, right? So you can just click on one of those products here, and then Sonar will actually give you a list of keywords that this product is currently ranking for, right? So you have doghouse, igloo doghouse, again, probably very similar keywords. But this is when you want to start from a product, and you don't want to start from a keyword, right? So this is what we recommend. As I said, it's entirely free. You can use it. You can use it without restrictions, and you don't have to pay. So I think this is a great tool, and actually we got a lot of positive feedback. So just use Sonar, or if you use any other keyword tool like Merchant Words or Keyword Inspector or whatnot, feel free to just use any keyword tool. But make sure to really come up with a list of keywords that is actually, consists of 30 to 50 keywords, and those are actually the most important keywords that you have, right, for your product. Okay. So now you have your keywords, and then so the last thing that you will need to do when you start your to create your exact ad group, you will need to set a default bid. Okay, and so I know this looks a bit complicated here. I'll walk through. Don't be too scared. Essentially, it's pretty simple. Okay, so the way we suggest you calculate your default bid is just you take the target ACOS, right? This is what we calculated at the very beginning, right? You calculate the target ACOS, you multiply it with the price, and then you multiply it again with the organic conversion rate of the product. Okay, so let's say that you're selling a product for $50. Okay, and let's say that you have calculated a target ACOS of 10%, okay? Because let's say your profit margin is 20% and you want to make a 10% profit. That means you have that 10% are left to actually invest into sponsored products. That means your target ACOS is 10% times the price of 50. That means you have a total of $5 that you can actually invest in one product that you can actually invest into ads, sorry, and then you multiply this again with the organic conversion rate, okay? And essentially that number that comes out of this is what you're actually able to pay, per click, assuming that your ads are performing at the same conversion rate than your organic conversion rate. Okay, that's what it says here. Okay, that means that if your organic conversion rate is 10%, right, and you have $5 that you can invest into this ad, that means that you will need on average 20 clicks to generate one sale, right? That means that you have 25 cents that you can actually pay per click. Okay, I don't know if that's too complicated. If you have some questions, just feel free to ask them in the comments. But that's actually the idea, right? So the idea is assuming that you're converting at the same conversion rate than your average organic conversion rate of that product. How much can you actually invest into ads, right? And then once you have calculated this, I suggest that you add another 20 to 30% to the number that you've calculated here, because the bid is actually a lot higher than the CPC, right? This is actually what you're able to spend per click, right? So this would be the CPC, but since Amazon is requiring the default bid and not the default CPC, I suggest that you add another 20 to 30% to this calculation here to actually come up with the default bid. Okay. So let me just know if this is a bit too confusing. and then I can try to clarify again. But let me continue in the meantime. So that's been the setup of the exact campaign. If we now look at wait, let me make this full screen. Make it a bit easier. So we've now set up our exact ad group. Now let's go on and set up our broad ad group. And then essentially it's very similar to the setup of your exact ad group, right? So again, I suggest you use a $10 or euro airbag as budget. I suggest you add manual as well as broad to the ad group name. You enter the same ASIN that you just entered in the exact ASIN. And then you take the default bid of the exact group, ad group that you just calculated, the one that we just calculated on the slide before, and you deduct 20 to 30%. Okay, this is to actually make sure that your bid in the exact group is higher than the one in your broad ad group, and this makes a lot of sense because you actually as we've seen before, you will actually bid on, you will also have some waste or some bad keywords in your broad ad group, and so in order not to lose a lot of money on those bad keywords, you want to bid a bit less than you're willing to bid in your exact ad group, right? And now one thing, and that's also really important, is I suggest that you add the same keywords that you added to your exact ad group, right? So you went to Sonar, you took the top 20 to 50 keywords and you've added them into your exact keyword, into your exact ad group. And so I suggest that you add those exact same keywords as negative in your broad ad group. Okay, and so this might be a bit weird for some of you. So let me explain just why this makes sense. So essentially the structure that we have is this one, right? So we have one ad group with exact and we have one ad group with broad. So the keyword that we want to bid on is doghouse, okay? So we add doghouse to our exact ad group, and our ad will be showed for doghouse and doghouses, right? Now the idea is of adding doghouse again to your broad campaign, to your broad ad group, is you want to get those extra keywords here that you're missing in the exact ad group, okay? So that's the reason, those keywords here, those here are the reason why you're actually running this broad campaign, okay? Because doghouse and doghouses, you already have them in your exact ad group, okay? But so the ones that you're missing and that are not showing up in your exact ad group are those keywords here, okay? And so this is the reason that you're running this, that you're having this structure here of broad and exact. Now, what you don't want to have is you don't want to bid on the same keywords both in broad and in exact, okay? Because what happens, and this is why we actually recommend to add the keywords as negative in broad, okay? Because what happens if you don't do this is you will get a few clicks on doghouse here and you will get a few clicks on doghouse in your exact ad group, okay? And this will just make it very difficult to actually track the performance and do some proper analysis, because the data will be all over the place, will be partly here and partly here, okay? And in order to keep it very clean and simple, the structure that we suggest is that you just add those keywords again as negative into your broad campaign, okay? So you enter them as positive keyword here in exact, you've entered them as positive keyword in broad, but you've also entered them as negative keyword here in broad, okay? So you both add them as keyword and as negative keyword in broad. Yeah. Okay, and then so this is the setup of your broad ad group. Now to finalize this, now we still need to set up our auto campaign, and again the setup of the auto campaign I believe is fairly simple. So you just add auto to the campaign name. So again, I suggest you use product plus auto. You set a budget of $10 or euros. Again, you take the same ASIN. And now for the default bid, I typically suggest that you just take the suggested bid that Amazon has and you deduct 30 to 40% margin from the suggested bid, since you already have the most relevant keywords in your manual campaigns, right? So remember, what we did is we used Sonar to find the top 20 to 50 keywords, and we've already added them into your exact campaign. Okay, so we make sure that that the most important keywords are already in your campaigns. Now, the reason we still run an auto campaign is that we want to find some other keywords as well, but those keywords will not be very relevant keywords. It won't be the most important keywords because those are already in your exact campaign, right? So since those are not the most important keywords, I don't recommend to use very aggressive bids, but instead I suggest that you lower your bids and by 30 to 40% compared to the suggested bid. And then you can save some money and still find the keywords. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the that's it for the setup of the campaign. So typically what I do at this point is then I go into the next stage, which is how to manage those campaigns. Now here, since we're already pretty much at the end of the time, it's hard. We don't have the time to look into this. Instead, let me just go through a few questions that let me see what we do here. So one question that I usually get is, why don't we use phrase as a match type? And let me just go back to this slide here, because I believe that this shows it pretty nicely. The reason we don't recommend to use phrase is that we feel that the difference between broad and phrase is very small when you actually look at it, and it just makes it a lot more complicated, because then you have a third ad group that you need to handle. Okay, so one campaign structure that is recommended quite frequently is to have broad, phrase, and exact, right? So instead of, we recommend you have broad and exact, and so a lot of people will also recommend you to add a third ad group of phrase. But in our opinion, the difference between broad and phrase is so small that it doesn't justify to have this additional overhead of managing another ad group and then having all this hustle just for a few extra keywords. Okay, that's why we don't recommend to use phrase. You can do this. Obviously, it will make it a bit more precise. Okay, you will probably get slightly better results out of it if you do it correctly, but you will spend a lot more time on it optimizing it. Okay, so that's why we generally don't use we don't recommend to use phrase too much. So let me see, will you add negative exact in the broad match when you move a keyword to the exact match? So in general, let me just see, does it make sense to include any SKU in more than one automatic campaign? So I don't think that it makes particular sense. There are some strategies that suggest that you have one automatic campaign with all your products in there, so just that you find some long tail keywords. Those are things you can do. I'm a big fan of keeping things simple, and I believe that the structure that that I presented is a fairly simple structure that offers most of the advantages that you can actually have from the different match types and from the different campaign types, while, as I said, still keeping it simple. Okay. So what if the bids don't get enough clicks, or the niche is competitive and the bid price is higher? So typically, when your bid doesn't get enough, first, maybe what happens if it doesn't get enough impressions? The first thing I would do is go back to your product and check the product category. Okay, it is really important that your product category actually matches your product, because Amazon will use the product category to decide if your product is actually relevant for this keyword. Okay, so if you have a dog house, but you've listed your product, your dog house, on the garlic presses, then chances are high that Amazon will actually not display your ad for the keyword dog house, even though you bid on it, and you might bid a lot on it, because Amazon feels that this product, since it's located in the category of garlic press, is actually not relevant to the keyword of doghouse. Okay, so first what I would do is I would double check if your category is actually correct and make sure that that it's the right category. And only then, only if you still don't get any impressions, only then I would start to increase the bid. Now, if the bid in general is if the niche competitive and bid prices are higher, you can test, okay? You can increase your bids and see if you're getting any more clicks and see if you're getting any more impressions. But eventually the question is, you know, how much are you willing to pay, you know? And I think if it's a very competitive category and there's just no way that at the current prices you're actually going to make a profit, then you should really question whether Amazon sponsored products are the right marketing things for you, right? So what you typically the opportunity will be in the long tail keywords then, okay? So don't go and bid on doghouse, but instead go bid on dog houses for small dogs, and then bids will typically be a lot lower. Obviously, you will also get a lot less traffic than if you're ranked on doghouse, right? So
Franz,
it's a very competitive niche, and you just don't have the margins to compete against those very high bids. My suggestion is to go into long tail keywords. Okay.
Franz, are you seeing consistent reactions from Amazon?
Question: if you add negative keywords into broad, won't it negate those keywords in exact? Well, it will if you add those negative keywords to the campaign. Okay. So what I suggest is that you add those keywords into the ad group. Okay. So don't add it as a negative keyword to the campaign, but add it as a negative keyword to the ad group, and then it won't negate the keyword in exact. Okay. So Dave says, nice job. I met you at the Seller Summit over the weekend. Love using Sonar. Yeah, Dave, hey, good to see you again. So yeah, I'm back in Germany. So, but it was a nice trip, Seller Summit. I can totally recommend this. This is actually a good event. So let me just see. A lot of people. Sean also seems to love Sellics. So that's great. It's good. It's the best motivation for me, you know, to just meet some users who like it a lot. So in general, we are planning to do a lot more training on sponsored products. I think that sponsored products is a very complex topic, and so we want to make sure that you guys understand it and know how to use Sellics. Okay. So would you guys would you implement this from day one when launching a new product if using a deal site as well to increase sales velocity, i.e. do you want to wait for positive reviews before starting PPC? Yes, well, so I would indeed wait for a few positive reviews, maybe 3 to 5 positive reviews, just to get things going, and then start with sponsored products. It really depends on your budget. If you have a huge budget and you don't care too much about those dollars, then just go ahead right away. But if your budget is a bit tight, then I would suggest to wait for positive reviews. But don't wait for tons of positive reviews, right? Wait for 3 or 5 positive reviews, and then you can get going. So Trevor is asking if there's a replay or recording of this. Yes, there will be a replay or recording. We will actually send this around. Do you use automatic campaigns to come up with exact keywords? Essentially, yes. That's the idea. That you use automatic to find new keywords. Then you take those keywords, put them into broad, and then from broad you then move them into exact if they're really performing. Okay. So Mark is asking, since campaign reporting is cumulative over time, how do you measure the effect of small tweaks to ads and bids since new data merge with past data? Well, that's actually a good question. Let me just I don't want to use this webinar too much as marketing for Sellics, but I think that it makes sense to show you guys how you can manage your campaigns here using Sellics. So for those of you who know Sellics, I'm sure you will recognize this interface here, right? This is a cockpit. where you have a summary of all of your activities here on Amazon, so reviews, ranking, sales, and so on. And so you also have this widget here that shows you clicks and costs, right? Shows you for the past 30 days how much you spend and how much click you've generated. And now if you click on this widget, it will take you to the PPC manager. Okay, so the PPC manager is the feature in Sellics that actually allows you to manage your to manage your ads, right? So first, what you have at the top here is an overview of your key metrics, right? So your revenue, your ad spend, your ACOS, your average cost per click, but also your impressions, your click-through rate, and your clicks, right? So essentially all the metrics that you and then you also have a trend analysis over time. Now the really interesting part is actually down here, because down here you can actually take action from those for those campaigns, right? And in fact, if you use Sellics, you don't have to use Seller Central anymore to manage your campaigns. Again, you have a list of all your campaigns here. As you can see, you can change your budgets directly here within Sellics, right? So if you have this campaign here, you can just change the budget, and then it will be pushed automatically into Seller Central. Now, if you want to, let's say that you want to move the top performing search terms from an auto campaign into a manual campaign, right? So you have your Muslim squares here automatic, and you have your Muslim square manual campaign here at the top, right? So what you want to do is you want to use this automatic campaign to find the best performing search terms, and then move those into this manual campaign here at the top, right? So the way to do this here is very simple. So you just click here on Muslim squares. You'll be at the ad group, and then you can click again on this ad group, and then it will take you to the keyword level. Now, obviously, since this is an auto campaign, there are no keywords, but there are only search terms. So you just click here on the tab search terms, and then it will show you all the search terms of this auto campaign. Okay, and now within this auto campaign, you can then use filters. So let's say you want to find those that had at least one sale and maybe at least 100 impressions. So those are the search terms that you want to move to your auto campaign, to your manual campaign, and then you just select those keywords that you want to move, right? And then you click here on this action button, and you say you add them to keywords, and then those you have this form here, and then you can choose the ad group that you want to move them to, right? And as you can see here, we will actually make suggestions, right? So we suggested to either add it to your broad ad group, which is this one here, or to exact ad group, which is the one down here. So if you wanted to move it to broad, you just click here on this campaign, and then you add the keywords, and then keywords are moved, right? So this is very easy. This is very easy to handle, right? This is also the same way how you can move keywords to negative, right? So you just select the keyword, you say add to negative, and then you can decide whether you want to do it on a campaign level or whether you actually want to do it on an ad group level, right? Those negative keywords, right? So this is I think this is it's fairly easy. Now the question that Mark had is, how can you actually track those changes? Well, here you have those changes over time, right? So if you look at a campaign, for instance, let's just go back and maybe take a campaign where we have some more numbers. Let's look at this campaign here. So here at the top, you'll actually see how the performance changed over time, right? So you can even go to a daily level. So I don't recommend this because on a daily level there are quite some changes. But if you go to a weekly level, you can actually see how this evolved over time, right? So if you are changing something, you can see if your costs are actually going down. Like in this case, you can see costs here have been decreasing over time because someone has worked on this campaign. But then the question is also, how did impressions develop, right? And as you can see here, impressions stayed fairly flat, even though costs decreased significantly, right? So that's actually a good development, right? That's a good development you want to see. Now the next question is, how did your click-through rate develop? And you can see the click-through rate also stayed fairly constant. So you probably can guess that clicks went down a bit, but let's look at the conversion rate lastly. Yeah, so as the conversion rate went down also a bit, the overall performance probably didn't change too much. But that's one way how you can actually track those changes, Mark, even though in Seller Central, and I know in Seller Central is just very painful because you have those fixed time frames. But so here in Sellics, you have the possibility to actually track this over time. Okay, so let me just see. Is it going to be a replay? Yes, there is going to be a replay. CJ is asking, can you hear me? Oh, CJ, sorry, I need to put you on the speaker. I'll do that right away.
Can you hear me now?
I think your voice is on now.
Okay. I'll ask you, is that, in the suspensions, we see very erratic behavior from Amazon. Do you see consistent results by following, your plan or your program?
Yes, I mean, so the in general, what you see, I mean, is that the marketplace is moving quite a bit, right? So there are always changes, and so the competitive landscape is changing quite constantly. But yes, so we've seen this over and over with different campaigns, that if you apply one strategy consistently, then you will definitely see results that are actually very positive. Okay, so the ACoS typically goes down after 2 to 3 weeks if you start applying a consistent strategy. That's what we see. What are your what erratic things do you see when it comes to banning to suspensions?
This would be a whole nother hour, if not a whole day.
Well, yeah, okay.
We see
we have a webinar coming up about suspensions, right?
Right. This is not about that, but what we see a lot of sellers experience on other aspects of doing business on Amazon is that some things that work on a Monday may not be so great on a Tuesday for no real rhyme or reason. But I think it's great that the program does result in results. You can apply a mathematical formula based upon the return on the investment that you're looking for. I think it's really great that you can count on the numbers to work out.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon is obviously not perfect. So we had, specifically at the beginning, because we were one of the very first users who had access to this API, we saw things like negative impressions, which per definition doesn't make any sense, right? But we can tell that they definitely have worked on their program, and so we feel that sponsor products are certainly certainly a good area, and we know that Amazon is investing a lot into sponsor products, and so we think that for many sellers this is actually it's a great opportunity, even though I understand that it's quite overwhelming for some sellers.
Okay, we're getting to the point. We might even be a few minutes over by now. You might want to tell everyone how they can reach you, and feel free to pump your website a bit so people who want the information know where to go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so if you want to use Sellics, just go to sellics.com, right? I mean, it's essentially the best way to do it is just go on the website, sign up for a free trial. So we do have a 14-day free trial that you can use even without credit card. So if at the end of the 14th day you don't want to use Sellics anymore, it will just run out. Because I know that many other software, if you don't cancel, then they will start charging you. With us, it's the opposite. So if you don't want to use it, it will just run out. So that's really the easiest way to get started with Sellics.
That's the bane of a lot of subscription services. That's very difficult to turn over your credit card information. So I think it's great that all the listeners can go ahead and, without giving a credit card, give a 14-day free trial. If anyone has any further questions, you can email them. Franz, can you give me your email address as well?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me just put my email address in the chat, right? So it's fj@sellics.com. This reach me directly, and then so there's going to be a replay that is that will be sent out to all of you guys. So yeah, then you can look at it, and then again, if you have questions, then feel free to reach out.
If anyone has questions, you can find us at AmazonSellersLawyer.com. Sellers is plural, lawyer is singular, or 1-877-9-sellers. And I want to thank everybody for attending and listening, and especially for all the great questions that you posed to Franz. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, it's a very interactive crowd. I always appreciate this. This is a lot more fun than just doing a presentation with no feedback. So it was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you learned a lot. And then I wish you all the best for your success on Amazon.
Okay, everyone have a great day.
See ya. Bye bye.